It just doesn't seem right. Well, hello, it's 6 o'clock. I had something really cool, but it's not going to happen. Well, that just messes up my mind. So many things. The best laid plans of mice and men, right? Again, the best laid plans of mice and men. Oh, sorry. I was mesmerized by how ridiculous my plan just went awry. It's so rare that I have a plan. Hey, Lisa. It's so rare that I have a plan. I showed up with a plan, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm going to wing it. I'll wing it because my plan's shot. How rarely I plan. Wow. Man. Hey, Becky, Kathy, Chris. Hi, everybody. Welcome to welcome to my podcast, Law and Disorder, with your host, Ken Goldberg. And I've been doing this recently for a number of months. Hey, Debbie in Florida, how you doing? Hey, Wendy, welcome. So listen, I had a plan. Let me tell you about the plan. Not going to happen, but I think you should know about the plan. It was a good plan. I recorded Steve Schmidt from the Lincoln Project on Nicole Wallace earlier. Hey, Mark and Ann. And I really wanted to play it for you guys. Steve Schmidt, for those that don't know, is a Republican, or was a Republican strategist who worked with, I think the Bush administration. He's right-wing, conservative, effective strategist. He, Rick Wilson, and this other lady, I think the three of them got together and they created the Lincoln Project during the time of Trump to combat Trumpism. And quite frankly, a lot of us feel they were more effective in dealing with Trump's idiosyncrasy, so to speak, than the Democrats will. They really did a good job of calling him out. Very, very effective. I don't know how much they had anything to do with how people ultimately voted, but many of us Democrats gave them money. We gave them money, we donated, because what they were doing, and I talked about it at the time, they were running ads in Washington, D.C. They weren't paying that much money, but all their ads were so good, they went viral. And in going viral, they got played millions of times around the country. So they really used their money effectively. Now, I don't know if they pocketed a bunch of money as the whatever. I mean, I know they paid a staff to create videos, to write scripts and whatnot. Now, here's the thing. Steve Schmidt was on Nicole Wallace today, and it's probably the 10th time I've just stopped what I'm doing to watch somebody talk about the human condition politically. And he assails white supremacy and white privilege and just Nazism and authoritarianism. He attacks it with such fluidity, so mellifluous. He's such command of the English language. I envy. If I could carry on like him, I think I'd run for public office. I mean, he's just, and even though I know he's to the right, the fact of the matter is he threw his lot in with Biden. He's never backed away from it. They've never backed away from it. They've been stalwart supporters. Even after the election, they haven't come out of a bag. They've gone straight forward and said, give peace a chance, right? In contrast to interviews that you may find with Black Lives Matter chapters and Latina voters, there's all kinds of people already jumping on Biden. There was already a protest in Portland, Oregon, against Biden by people who said, we don't like Republicans, we don't like Democrats, and he's a sellout to corporate interests, whatever. Okay. But in contrast, the Lincoln Project's been pretty solid. And he was interviewed by Nicole Wallace today, and she asked him, Rand Paul with his usual, bullshit. Just the cat is full of bull, right? He calls himself a libertarian, but he's just another old white asshole. So anyways, so Steve Schmidt went off on a rant. And what he does like I do, only in shorter segments, is he just went off on the Republican, that part of the Republican Party that advocates authoritarianism, and he does it so eloquent. I mean, he just throws them under the bus like nobody else's business. It's beautiful to watch. And so I thought I recorded it, and so I wanted to play it. And so I went here to see what happened. I'm going to see maybe there's another way to retrieve it. Anyways, it's not on my TV like I had planned. So I don't know what happened. I have no clue, and I don't think my remote will go back that far. Well, I'm going to try anyways, because it really, he is there. Okay, hold on. I know this is tedious, but you have to hear this guy. Okay. I'm having a little trouble with the remote. Be patient. Be patient. I don't even know if you'll be able to hear this.
Without question, they are part of that coalition. They wore their red hats and they assaulted the Capitol of the United States. So I don't know. Psychiatrists might say what Rand Paul is expressing there is a consciousness of guilt. But by any measure, those 147 members after the insurrection came back inside and they voted. All of them white. They voted to throw out, on no basis whatsoever, the votes of millions of African Americans, to disenfranchise them, to strip their voice, their constitutional rights, to nullify them, to silence their voice for the purposes of overturning an election, to install the loser of that election into power, which would have resulted in the fall of the 244-year American Republic. That's what happened. Nobody is seeking retribution or revenge for the attack against the people of the United States and against the people's government. We simply seek justice. We seek accountability. If we do not respond forcefully to the sedition, to the attempted coup, we guarantee that there will be another one. And so Rand Paul, this man who has claimed fidelity to the Constitution, has soiled his oath. He has betrayed it. He has become a leading figure in a cult of personality that sought to end the American experiment in the name of Donald Trump. And maybe that's why he feels guilty, but whether he feels guilty or not, he's profoundly unfit to serve in the United States Senate, and his conduct is abhorrent.
Steve, Elizabeth Newman, who's I think
that was not the good part, and yet it was good.
The Rand Pauls and the Lindsey Grahams and the Ted Cruzes and the Josh Hawleys on their own. Former national security officials say the same thing, that as a counter extremism endeavor, you need people in the community to sort of.
Well, by the way, Nicole Wallace is brilliant too.
Movement. One of the things that is a trait of it is the purge, and you're seeing that right now. After the vote on the 6th, the Republican Party fractured irreconcilably in a way that's not so different than what happened to the Whig Party after the vote in the Kansas-Nebraska Act that allowed for the expansion of slavery westward. That destroyed the Whig Party because the slaver and the abolitionist couldn't sit in coalition together. So you saw the incredible courage of Liz Cheney on a matter of principle say, I'm a conservative, but I'm for democracy. Now you see the attempt to purge Liz Cheney. But as we move into the primaries in 22, what side will be ascendant? The vestigial Republican side that tried to go along to get along, or the QAnon coalition of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Who will win these primaries? I think the autocratic side is going to steamroll the vestigial pro-democracy wing of the Republican Party, which is a minority by membership. They're going to steamroll them like the German Wehrmacht did to the Belgian army in 1940. Now, what does that mean? It means that we will have more clinically insane people elected to the Congress. But it also means that we'll see Democrats be able to win elections in competitive districts, or even districts with a slight Republican advantage, as the majority condemns this. There are only two ways to win a fight. You bring your opponent to submission, or they exhaust you while you're trying. We have no place to compromise with the white supremacists, the white nationalists, and the people who believe the government is run by a global cannibalistic pedophile ring. There's no place to meet in the middle. We have to crush them politically, and we can't ever lose an election at a national level to these people again, because it could be the last election that we have in the United States. Their intent is clear. So we cannot be exhausted in the prosecution of the fight for democracy against people who have made their fidelity to autocracy and to Donald Trump clear. We have a real-life fascist movement, autocratic movement that Donald Trump has started in America. And that movement led to, for the first time in American history, since the first transition of power in 1797, we had the transfer of power, but for the first time it was not peaceful. It's not a moment, it's a process. And it was a bloodstained process because of the incitements of Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Kevin McCarthy, Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr., and the other members of Congress like Mo Brooks, who incited those people. We have a big question as a country, and it's this. Law enforcement is saying by the end of the month there may be 1,000 of the incited who stormed and rampaged and caused death and mayhem in the Capitol under arrest. What about the inciters? What about the people who told the big lie? What is their moral responsibility? What will the institutional consequences be under the rules of the Senate or the House of Representatives? What will the American people demand? The president called the nation to a great national purpose, to crush COVID and to defend American democracy. And that's the question on the table.
Someday we're going to start this conversation at 4 so that we don't run into any time limits. Because I think you're right. And I appreciate.
It's actually the part I wanted you to hear. I feel small when I listen to something like that. I'm like, wow. I mean, it's an expression of reality. It's an expression of the political reality, the social reality. Wow. It just blows me away when I listen to him. And that was the most recent. I mean, this was this afternoon. So he says it better than I ever could, right? We are in a war with authoritarianism. And as he said, it must be crushed politically. It must be. Or this next election could be the last election, right? So Trumpism is alive and well. And it's all through. You know, they just were reporting that one of the arrestees has a high-level security clearance. He worked in a munitions, with a munitions stockpile for the military. He's been in the military for a while. Is he a political analyst? Yes, Kathy. Steve Schmidt, as I was saying, he was a strategist for the Republican Party for quite a while. Very successful. Very, as an opponent, he was He's cunning, baffling, and powerful, and he crafted a lot of strategy. But he, Nicole Wallace, Rick Wilson, Elizabeth Newman, all these conservative Republicans that bolted and said, "Yeah, no, we can't have this." Now they appear to be in the minority. They're certainly not in the Senate. What's happening right now in the Senate continues to be a obstruction of any relief that we had hoped to get from Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden is using executive action to move us forward. But ultimately, to pass a stimulus package, effective stimulus package, to pass an effective COVID/ stimulus package will require Senate approval. And the problem is that, you've been told repeatedly that we won the Senate. Democrats won the Senate, and that's simply not true. It was never true. Okay, when you're 50-50, you didn't really win it. You gotta have the votes, and we have conservative Democrats that are reluctant to go along with the Democratic Party pretty frequently. And if every one of the 50 doesn't go along and nobody bolts from the Republican Party, then the Biden agenda could be sunk. The Biden agenda, in order to be able to even begin to move forward, requires unanimity in the Democratic Party in the Senate. It's unlikely. Now, that could be compensated for by those that bolt from the Republican Party, at least for the vote. Now, Liz Cheney, who's number 3 Republican in the Senate and is a long-standing credentials as a conservative, she is now being attacked. They're trying to bring her down because she said she would vote for Trump's impeachment because what he did was insurrection. So they're trying to drag down their own people, their top people, if they deviate in any way from the Trump line. Not from the Republican Party line, because there is no Republican Party line to bolt from. You are being asked to abandon the Trumpism of the last 4 years, and they're not doing it. Mitch McConnell did it for a minute, then he retreated. Lindsey Graham did it for a minute, then he retreated. Kevin McCarthy didn't do it again. These are all senators. These are all very prominent senators. These are senior senators. These are Republican senators. And if they don't garner the support to help Biden carry out the agenda, then where do you think the agenda goes? I mean, all it takes is one. The Republicans vote in unity and unison. They typically will stick together. Democrats historically don't know how to do that. They won't do it. They're unlikely to at a time like this. Manson, whatever his name is in West Virginia. He sounds good when you listen to him, but he's a Republican. He's a Republican. He's only a Democrat in name only. Dino, no. We need guys like Steve Schmidt, Republicans like Steve Schmidt, to say this has to stop. If we don't stop this, if there are not political obstacles of such magnitude that this white supremacy movement is crushed politically, then they're a rising tide. They will find political dominance, and they will bring this country's experiment in democracy to a screeching halt. Now, we have moved away from that significantly by electing Joe Biden. The problem is Joe Biden knows he's calling for unity, and he's not getting it. He's not getting it from Cruz. He's not getting it from Hawley. He's not getting it from Rubio. He's not getting it from, I can't remember all their names. Okay, Republicans are making it clear they have no intention of going along with the stimulus package. They're saying that 1.3 trillion is too much, but economic professors, economists, the money people, the people that look at your budgets, that look at your deficit, that look at your surpluses. These people are screaming for more money because the amount of money it costs to be in a pandemic and shut down businesses repeatedly, to hospitalize people, to take them out of the workforce, to the healthcare cost, the cost to the labor force. All these things are in trillions of dollars. So what is being said by the Democrats is, listen, let's allocate enough money to combat COVID, to get enough vaccination to everybody, not just to buy the vaccine, but to actually implement the vaccinations with the federal government sending money to the states and the municipalities so they can effectively go about the business of fighting the pandemic. Requires a lot of money. And they're arguing. The Republicans, even after 4 years of spending like Paris Hilton, where nothing was too good for them, turned on a dime. Turned on a dime. You dig what I'm saying, man? They've decided, no, we can't spend that. So Lindsey Graham was on TV today and he said, well, I understand what Joe's trying to do, President Biden. I understand, and it's good in theory, but it's too expensive. We'll come up with something. They've come up with nothing. They've come up with nothing. In 4 years, the Republicans came up with nothing. So, anyways, I'm done. I'm done with that. I just wanted you to hear him. And the first part was not, I hadn't listened to that. The second part was what I wanted you to hear, which I tried to record, which miraculously, gloriously was still, by rewinding my TV, I was able to bring that up and play that for you. I think that, that's the type of rallying cry that we must recognize, we must amplify, we must support, we must insist upon. I don't know if Joe Biden's the man for the time. By that I mean he's clearly a good-hearted guy. Does he have what it takes to fight? Joe Biden is not a fighter. Joe Biden's history, 36 years in the Senate, his history is being able to negotiate with people, but he's never dealt with these people. So, just will he show the backbone to really get in there and punch people out and punish states where senators are an impediment to putting in his plan? Will he start closing some military bases in Texas because he needs to punish us, and he can pull out millions and millions of dollars by closing some bases, I assume, as commander-in-chief. I don't know. Maybe there's an obstacle. Maybe he needs Senate approval. I would certainly look to punish Texas and probably Arizona. I would punish the states that Ted Cruz is from, Rand Paul is from, and Josh Hawley or whatever his name is. I would punish those states for having them. I would force these states to come to the table. I would provide incentives. Get rid of Cruz, and we'll make it worth your while. Get rid of Hawley, we'll make it worth your while. That's the way I feel about it. So, war or peace? So I put in some links to some songs, just because that's what I've been doing lately. It's kind of the easy way to create a title for the show and then to create some kind of content for after the show. So, war, of course, with Edwin Starr, if you're going to write a title called War and Peace, then, you got to get down with it, right? So, War and Peace, and then a Peace Train by his name is Yusuf something now, but back then it was Cat Stevens, and then there was another one by Curtis Mayfield. And Curtis Mayfield, it's not a great song really, but Curtis Mayfield from the South Side of Chicago. Some of us may have bumped into him at one time, but he's fantastic. Or he was fantastic. He sadly died. He was doing a performance, and I think the lighting came down on him and hurt him badly, and he never recovered. And ultimately, after a couple of years, he passed away. And he's not much older than I am, and he died several years ago. So that's where I'm at today. So welcome. I'm I said repeatedly as we came up to this moment in time, I kept saying, the election will be important. If we win the election, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of a significant undertaking, a battle of significant magnitude that must be conducted. And it won't just be politically. We're going to have to rely upon the FBI to really do its thing. And I've said, I believe that the FBI will, to the best of its ability, rise to the occasion. I believe that the FBI, which has a lengthy history of infiltrating these type of organizations and ferreting out the violence that they intend, they really have an excellent track record. They don't always hit it. Timothy McVeigh proved that, intelligence reports don't always get it. They knew. I mean, if you don't have to believe me, but, the reports are there. They knew there'd be a bombing on that day. They knew a federal building was going to be targeted. I don't think they knew it was Timothy McVeigh, and they didn't know which building, but the DEA had gotten intelligence reports about a bombing, a planned bombing, and the FBI knew about it. They just didn't know where. They knew when. I mean, they knew the day. They didn't know where. They didn't know what time of day. And I don't think they knew how. I don't think they knew it was ammonium nitrate. I don't know, because what reports I accessed were not that intensive. And a lot of that stuff you just can't find. But you can find information about the whole investigation that was conducted around that time. There were informants that were advising the DEA, who were within the militia movement, who were advising the Drug Enforcement Administration that there was an attack planned on a federal facility, kind of in honor of Waco. All right, so that's what I was planning. I told you I don't usually plan. You know that. Usually I'm just here and I'm just stream of consciousness. But I thought this was, and I only heard it maybe a half hour before I came to air, as they say. And I just thought, wow, now there's something to talk about. There's an assessment of the situation that reflects the way I feel, but articulates it so well, so clearly what is at stake. The country is at stake. Biden's a good start. We've got a president. That was important. That takes away a lot of their weapons, literally and figuratively, right? And then we won the Senate. So we won the Senate in this regard. We stopped the railroading that was taking place. We were getting steamrolled on everything. Nothing was reaching the floor. Now, with what you call the Democratic majority, there are rules, regulations about bills that they will be able to do. There will be some things they will have unanimity, and Kamala Harris will be there to help, and things will get done in opposition to what we've been living with, which is nothing was getting done. I've been reading the story of the pandemic from beginning to end, and there were so many people working in earnest from day one to try to abort the devastation that was coming from the pandemic. There were people like Fauci, other scientists who recognized the danger that was emerging, and they recognized the need to attack it from the federal level. And politically, they didn't get the support they needed. They didn't get the funding they requested. And so our system never rose to the occasion. And as a result, we know that hundreds of thousands of people have died as a direct result. And as I've said before, I'll cut it in half. There's over 400,000. I'll just put 200,000 at their doorstep. I'll say that another 200,000 dead might have happened anyways. I don't know. Okay. But more death than any one person should ever be allowed to be responsible for. And Trump and his coterie, they are responsible for what happened. They played politics with our lives. Those of us who are able to sit here right now and listen to my podcast, we survived up till now. We survived a global viral infection pandemic. We survived so far this this scourge that has killed people you know. Perhaps you don't know some, doesn't matter. You know, the numbers are a lot of dead people. Dead people, more dead people than we typically would experience going to war. Natural disasters, remember Katrina, lots of people died, lots of people got hurt, billions of dollars worth of damage. It's minor in contrast to what we're going through right now. And in large measure, a lot of this was not necessary. A pandemic is a pandemic. By definition, it cannot be stopped or it wouldn't become a global threat. But it can be arrested, it can be slowed down while you're trying to come up with your vaccines and stuff. And that attempt was never there. I'm reading, interviews with people that were there from day one, and the efforts that were made, and the companies that tried to help out, the laboratories that were offering their assistance, the manufacturing facilities that were offering their assistance, only to be brushed aside because politically nobody wanted to take the hit for this. So, all right, I'm worn out. It's Friday night. Maybe we need to just arrest me, as I see that whatever I did, I scared off half of you. Half of you got scared off already. I'm, by the way, I simulcast on my YouTube. Yeah. You ever want to blow your brains out? All right. So, what do you want to talk about? Just type in the comments section. Maybe I just need to be diverted from my own, musings. This thing we call the mind that generates thoughts. It's not always under control. It doesn't always serve me well. But sometimes the interaction, sometimes just, being present for you is probably better than just taking a stroll through my mind to see what I might find. Ooh, take a stroll through your mind sometime. You'll be surprised at what you might find. All right. Well, I don't see anything. Joan usually is good. Is Joan not here? Because Joan's always good at throwing something into the mix, So maybe is it possible that while my computer says I'm podcasting, in reality, I was shifted. There was a shift in the universe. And while my computer thinks I'm podcasting, the reality is Twilight Zone. I'm just talking to myself. What do I think of the inauguration poem? Like Kathy said, it was beautiful. It was stellar. By the way, I had to go back and listen to it because I didn't hear it in real time. Because like some of you, I thought that the inauguration took place at noon Dallas time, but it took place 11:30 to noon Eastern time. So I was still out shopping, but I listened to it. Some of it escapes me, the twist and turn she took, but in the main, she's fabulous. They keep calling her like a kid. She's 22. She's not a kid. By the time we were 22, all of us were already in trouble. Every one of you was already in trouble by 22. She's a young woman. She's certainly not a kid. And, surprisingly, Lady Gaga knocked it out of the park, didn't she? I'm not a big fan of the Star Spangled Banner. I don't stand. I stand sometimes if I think I'm going to get my ass kicked, like at a baseball game or something. But in general, I don't have any. I'm not that's not my manifestation of patriotism, standing or singing the national anthem. But Lady Gaga, she did her own nuances, and you kept wondering, well, where's this going? And then every time she came through that verse, her transitions were just beautiful and marvelous, and she made you feel patriotic for a moment, didn't she? Did I hear that Mitch said today that Biden is already making mistakes? Well, that's what you expect. That was Steve Smith's point. These essentially traitors that we call Republicans are trying to throw Biden under the bus when he is proffering genuine remedies. And what they're playing politics, Mitch McConnell's playing politics because Mitch McConnell doesn't want to give up the filibuster the way it's set now, because then they would need, the Democrats could use less votes to pass legislation that would stick. And Mitch McConnell knows that. He doesn't want to lose this minority power, that he can bring the Senate to a halt even as the minority leader. So he's already busy throwing Biden underneath the bus. And, it's infuriating. I can't really tell you what I really think of Mitch McConnell, because I would expect the FBI to show up at my door, man. I ain't lying. The way I feel about the cat, hey, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. The way I feel about Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, I'm infuriated, man. It's like, if we were in a bar, I'm throwing down. I don't care if I get my ass kicked. I don't care if they're all there. I'm going to throw down with them, because that's how furious I am that they would put politics ahead of country, that they are going to continue and make every effort to leave millions of Americans without money in their pockets or food on their plate or health care accessible. Calling him a Weasel Joan is just, it's a start. It's a start. Kathy, Jennifer Lopez was good too. And I really, for those of you that are on my Facebook, you know that I took what she said in Spanish. I posted it along with a picture of her at the event and said, because a lot of people think, you should only speak English in America, right? You know that there's these, native language people that don't even know what native language means. So I posted that just to piss them off, right? Because she said in Spanish, one nation under God, indivisible. One nation indivisible under God. And I posted and said, if that pisses you off, then you ain't ready for the future, because the future is, in large measure, a Hispanic majority. And they deserve it, because they will own us numerically, demographically. So instead of suppressing the Hispanic population, blossom. Let them blossom. Do you know how many wonderful Mexican and South American scientists there are, engineers there are, doctors? We act as if in the United States as if you've got to be either Asian or white to be a doctor or a scientist. Screw that. Ted Cruz and Turtle Man, that's Lindsey Graham, as Lisa says, she hopes they find their karma. I can't disagree about that, right? Hi Tammy, welcome. So I'm disgusted. I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to bum anybody out. I'm not trying to yesterday I said, let's get the party started, or one of these days I said, let's get the party started. Pink. Anyways, the party should continue. In large measure, we have moved forward for the first freaking time in 4 years, okay? That's important. I don't want to minimize it, but I want to put it in perspective when I tell you it's just the beginning of a fight for the life of the United States and what we call this experiment in democracy. Democracies do not prevail. Look through history. Democracies tend to fail. Democracies tend to be short-lived. Democracies do not become the way that the world operates. Okay? France, England, Germany, these were all monarchies. Asia, monarchies. Okay? These were not democracies, constitutional or republic democracy. No, they weren't. And so all these experiments, there's a lot of experiments that you can look to historically that did not make it. Okay? The Roman Empire was not a democracy. That was pretty much the government that endured the longest, right? Yeah. So they had emperors. So we are, in such a large sense, an experiment. Can you bring the diversity that the United States has, which is almost unlike any other country in the world? We have one of the most diverse populations by virtue of being so close to a major Hispanic population. Because we had the universities, we attracted the Asians and the Europeans, the Eastern Europeans. Other democracies were more homogenous. They were not heterogeneous. They were mostly made up of their white the white people, or whatever color whatever experimentation they were conducting in democracy was narrower. Ours is much more tenuous because you're dealing with all these political rivals in the biggest sense. Okay, Kathy, thank goodness, has 3 Hispanic physicians. I had one. My physician now is Chinese. I had a Vietnamese physician before that. I've got a man, I think he's Middle Eastern. My urologist, my GI guy was American. So yeah, I mean, and when you read the story of the pandemic, what was going on behind the fight to address the pandemic, there were great scientists from various countries who were doing good things. But again, the politics snuffed out the legitimate attempts to arrest the pandemic early on, to save tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives. The Trump administration and its leadership in the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC, the FDA, they all fell flat under the leadership because it was politicized. So we're not going to let that happen again. It's the end of my podcast. I appreciate all of you who showed up. I'm going to do a loving kindness, a goodwill blessing with you in a second. Before I do that, Lisa showed up on my YouTube. I hope she's still there. She's one of the only ones from the outside world to pop in and say hi to me. If she's still there, I hope she'll say something else, just so I know she hung around. But because I say that because YouTube, I told you yesterday, I don't know how to measure the metrics during the show. After the show, it'll say one person listened. But I think I'm at some point I need to podcast maybe exclusively on YouTube at some point. Anyways, so thank you, everybody. Thank you to the usual suspects, the Mark and Ann and the Chris and Becky and Kathy and Lisa and Tammy and Debbie and Joan. Wendy showed up today. That's a beautiful thing. I hope she stuck around. And I thought about it 2 hours ago. This is the thought I had. I thought, what you said yesterday during your podcast, what you said about community, what you said about nurturing and having the reservoir filled. I 2 hours ago or so, I was sitting thinking about, how did that work? How did it happen? Is it real? Yes, it is. It really is. Digitally, things were happening by communicating, by podcasting, by creating community, by creating connection, I found myself nurtured by it in a way that was unavailable to me in the time of the pandemic, right? Oh, good, Lisa. I'm glad you're still there. All right, you guys, let's just thank you, Mark. Okay? Thank you all. Let's bring our hands together before our hearts, if you would. As I always say, treat it as a prayer, treat it as a meditation, but try it. Bring your hands before your heart. There's no harm. I can't see you. Or do this. Here, this is what Mark just posted this. You can do this if you want. It's what your intention is. May I be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May our practice of metta, of goodwill, may it result in a life of greater peace and comfort. May my mother and father and all my family and all my friends, may they too be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they find a path that leaves them free from suffering and guides them to peace and comfort. And may those persons that we find difficulty with, whatever resentments or ill will we harbor, if only in this moment, let us be free from that and let us free them from it. May they be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they too be living lives of peace and comfort and even joy. And to all living beings, let us send out loving kindness as a collective with full heartedness, so that all living beings, wherever they may be in the universe, be the recipient of our wish for them to be happy, healthy, free from harm. May all living beings be safe, comfortable, and at peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. If you stuck around, thank you. Because I know you, if you stuck around, you did it. I know you did it. Kathy, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Joan, Lisa. I got two Lisas. I got a Lisa Burnett and a Lisa Faye Colby. Lisa thanked me. Lisa thanked me for giving a shout out to her her writings. She apparently has an inferiority complex about her writings because she didn't go far enough in school, and she writes these magnificent little episodes with these old vintage photos or cartoons and stuff. You know, listen, I know that inferiority, that sense of inferiority when you're writing. As long as you keep doing it, who cares how you feel about it? As long as you're putting it out there and we get the advantage of reading it, I don't care if you feel inferior with you doing it. All right, kids. Thank you. Bye.